There will also be an uncut version of this documentary on patreon.com as well, and that will be over 3 hours long, so go ahead and check that out. Please leave a like on this video. It supports the video a lot. Let's continue.
Let me know if I'm hunched over and shit, because I do that a lot. Good?
My name is Quake. Some of you have heard about me and some of you haven't. I'm the owner of Diverse Mentality, a platform started in 2017 to deliver the most detailed hip-hop documentaries you've ever seen. If you've been watching my videos, you know this isn't the type of content you've been used to. Well, for this, I took it to the next level. I assembled a worldwide team to deliver a documentary on an album that forever changed my life, 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin'.
The reason why I wanted to make a documentary on Get Rich or Die Tryin' is because that album changed my life, changed the course of my life completely. It started my passion for hip hop. It started the whole reason why I'm doing Diverse Mentality. Since I was 7 years old, that was the first time I ever heard the album. I remember my brother Vito vividly joking about this. When I saw the In the Club video, he's getting operation performed on him in the video. And my brother Vito joked and was like, yeah, 50 Cent is half robot, half human. And as a kid, I was like, what the hell? Like, this guy got shot 9 times, half robot, half human. Who is this guy? Like, this is a superhero at this point. He comes upside down in the video, and I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen anything like this. That album, then every track I heard, I loved. And then I told my sister, I was like, hey, give me the album that has 21 Questions and In the Club on it, because I heard those songs on the radio consistently, and I wanted to listen to it every single time. 20 years have gone by, so much legendary things have happened. I want to get the right story from the people who contributed that never get to speak on what they did for this album.
And in order for me to get the right story, I had to travel all across the United States, with the first landing spot being the birthplace of hip-hop, New York. And I spoke to various people in New York, including the co-executive producer of Get Rich or Die Tryin', Sha Money XL. And from there, I went to Houston, Miami, Vegas, and Atlanta to talk to more people that had roles in making the album. So before we can get into the man that told the world he was going to get rich or die trying, we have to understand where he came from. And to do that, we have to start from the beginning. Although 50 Cent wasn't half human, half robot like I thought, his life story is one of one in the entire human existence. He was born on July 6, 1975 as Curtis Jackson in Southside Jamaica, Queens. He grew up never knowing his father, and by the time he was 8 years old, his mother was murdered. At that early age, life for 50 Cent started with lots of things being stacked against him, but despite all that, he still found a way to survive.
My mother passed when I was like 8 years old. I went to live with my grandparents.
And so how old were you when you got involved in selling drugs yourself?
Around 12.
12 years old.
Even at 12, you know, you still have to live by your parents' rules.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, you can't just be out hustling. Like, I had to have my grandparents think I was enrolled in an after-school program.
To simply provide himself with some of the better things in life during his teenage years, 50 Cent hustled in the streets of Southside Jamaica, Queens. But he quickly realized that this could only lead to one thing: death or prison. He got busted at the age of 19 with drugs and got put into a military shock program. At that program, he ended up meeting some pieces to the puzzle that could help his future. Once released in 1995, 50 Cent, known as Boo Boo at the time, started touring around with making music.
Yeah, what's up? DJ Rad, Queens, New York. I produce High All the Time on the Get Rich or Die Tryin' album. I first heard about 50 through my boy Whatever. He met him first, you know what I mean? They was like in the shock program together, and Whatever came out, and he was introduced to us by my boy Jackpot. He brought him over. He was like, yo, my boy, at the time his name wasn't 50, you know, his name was Boo, and they called him Boo Boo. So he was like, yo, man, my boy Boo, he rap, you know what I mean? Like, he wanted to get into music and all that, you know what I mean? And we doing demos and them things with them. So he was like, yo, we gonna bring him over so you could do his demo too. See if he, you know, if I could vibe. I was like, all right, bring him over. So he came through my man Quest's basement. Quest was playing like regular instrumentals at the time, not our beats first. And heard him, like, you know, drop a couple of bars on there. It's like, okay, he got some. And then he was like, yo, play some of y'all joints. And, you know, we playing the joints that we started making. He was like, all right, I could freestyle. Had the mic plugged into the PA system. We recording straight to the cassette. Cause this is like 9/6, and he freestyling. Make him a copy. He go home, listen to it. Blah blah blah. We listen to our copy. From there, he was like, "Yo, man, we just gonna work on this demo, and I'm gonna try to take this music serious."
In 1996, 50 Cent did take music serious as a full-time job after having his firstborn son. In order to be around for his son, he had to make music instead of just selling crack. He couldn't have one foot in the streets and one foot in the music. Working with DJ Rad and others, he eventually ran into Jam Master Jay through a friend, and they got to work together. Jay liked what 50 Cent was spitting, but realized that 50 Cent didn't know how to count bars and had no hooks in his music. That's when Jay took him under his wing as a mentor and taught him how to write songs in song format.
In '97, when I decided to do it, I was blessed. I ran into Jam Master Jay, and Jay was a mentor for me. He was the first guy I went in the studio with intentions of recording an actual album, and he helped develop my song structure. He created a system that allowed me to learn how to become a great songwriter instead of just a talented rapper.
During that time, 50 Cent recorded roughly 11 tracks with Jam Master Jay. While 50 Cent's relationship was building with Jam Master Jay, there was another relationship Jay was building, and that was with Sha Money XL. He also took him under his wing, and little did the world know that would lead to something special for hip-hop.
What's poppin', what's poppin'? I go by the name Sha Money XL, aka The Chain on the Bike, co-executive producer of Get Rich or Die Tryin. 20 years later, let's talk about it.
This is South Jamaica, Queens, a working-class community nestled between New York City's Kennedy and LaGuardia airports.
Everything started right there where I grew up, man. Everybody else around my neighborhood was rapping, but nobody had beats. So for me, it was like, that's gonna be the lane. At the same time, I was an intern for Def Jam. You know, I was in the office doing that, pick up phone calls, nothing real work, but there was this room called the artist room, the artist lounge. At the time, Jam Master Jay was in there. I said, holy shit, that's Jam Master Jay. And he was on the phone by himself. So he put down the phone, he was like, what up? In that 5 minutes, I mentioned I was from Hollis, Queens. I mentioned I was a producer. I mentioned I was a fan of everything he did, like everything. And he was like, yo, play some beats, man. So he let me play beats for him. And that's when I started getting under the JMJ umbrella. Eventually, they took me to Queens, where they had a studio on Rosedale. And this one particular day, we was down there, he was running through records, and he played this record to hit. And I heard that, and I was like, yo, who is that? Because this is brand new. Nobody ever heard him. I never heard 50, but I knew who he was based on his street activities, not even knowing that he was a rapper. So when I heard the record, I was like, yo, this is different. Wasn't like Nas, wasn't like Mace, but it had that cut to it.
Dominican turned around and gave him more breaks. Rest in peace to Rich and Ron. Money, what they was about, yo. The twins was from Queens. We got Crazy Crane with Alpo. Throughout my time, I heard tales of Jaime, Frenchie, Jamaican Paulie, Ducky Corley, Rodney bumping chicks. A lot of flow the way I flow, but ain't been in the game all that, so don't know who I know on the strength. Y'all don't want it with me. Y'all deal with fantasy, I deal with reality on the strength.
I was like, yo, Jay, this kid, this the one, I want to work with him. He was like, huh? He ain't even knowing. I was like, nah, that's the one. He was like, you want to meet him? I said, yeah. Literally the same day, not even 30 minutes later, because Fifth lived right off the conduit. I seen this kid walking out his truck. He had 5 quarters in the shape of a cross, and he walked out and he had that aura energy, and I just walked up to him, and that was the introduction through Jam Master Jay.
Jam Master Jay, initially, I met Sha Money through Jam Master Jay. And he wouldn't let Sha Money go nowhere near me. He just thought I was better than Sha Money's production. So he was like, nah, you could do stuff for Cream Team and for these other guys, but he kind of kept me to myself.
While I was meeting with 50, I didn't record a record with him or nothing. It wasn't me even as a producer, even though I liked him. We didn't even record a record under Jam Master Jay wing. I was taking him around like, yo, meet this DJ or do this, you know what I mean? And eventually, after he left, when he got to Trackmasters, that's the first time I got to do a record with him.
After roughly a year with Jam Master Jay, 50 Cent didn't feel like things were moving quick enough. Jay's work schedule kept him away from properly being involved with 50 Cent's career. 50 Cent eventually ran into Corey Rooney, who heard his music at a barbershop. He was then invited to go and meet Tone and Poke from the Trackmasters. That's when he would get a shot at his then scheduled debut album.
So the first song I ever did with Fifth was at Black Hands Entertainment Studio, and it was You Ain't No Gangster. After he left Jam Master Jay, 98, going into 99, he goes up to Bearsville. Bearsville was a place in upstate New York where they had these cabins, and you would stay in the cabins, sleep at night, and during the day, you got multiple studio rooms. I went up there, not knowing I was gonna know anyone there. Heart beating, walked in the room that day, like, damn, what this about to be like? And when you walk through the studio, there's this big window, and as you walk through, you're walking past it, and I'm looking to see if I know anybody in the room, and the first person I see that I knew was 50 Cent. And I went like this, yo! I didn't know he was up there. I didn't know he was at Trackmaster. I didn't know none of that shit. And he saw me, he was like, and we already had the record, and that was it. I didn't work with nobody else the whole time. I didn't care, I didn't care who was there. I did the title track, Power the Dollar, during that time there, that 2-week stay he had there. I watched other artists not even make one song in a week. This dude was doing 2 to 3 songs a day.
I went up to like Bearsville, Woodstock, New York, and like I was there for like 18 days. I recorded like 36 songs.
And he told me as he was finishing, yo, if they don't sign me, I got 38 records by them. Somebody gonna sign me. And sure enough, they heard them shits and it was over. He didn't leave. He was with Trackmasters, and that's how he started with them. Signed to Columbia, and that's where How to Rob and everything was to come after that.
Signing with a major record label like Columbia Records is every artist's dream, and it may have seemed like 50 Cent had finally made it, but that wasn't the case.
We did the deal, and I was ready to write my album, and they felt like those 36 songs was my album. And I was like, what? And then it went for a long period of time that without any information of what was actually gonna happen to the actual project, it just was like, I was just floating.
Columbia Records had essentially shelved 50 Cent for roughly a year. He was a new artist with no buzz surrounding his name. In the meantime, 50 Cent took the time to learn the business side of the record label and met people there that he would end up using for Get Rich or Die Tryin' in the future. With no buzz, he had to figure out a way to make his label want to release his album.
Rob is, I was playing it at the time. I'm on Columbia Records. I got a release date coming, and there's no buzz surrounding the record. When you're in my situation, there's no plan B. You know, it's music or we sell crack, because that's what we did before we did music. So I'm like, I gotta make a record that makes everybody stop right now and say, who's this guy 50 Cent? Right now, who is this guy, you know? And then the creative part, I got $65,000 in advance from Columbia. $50,000 went to Jam Master Jay to negotiate the release from JMJ Records. $10,000 went to the attorney that drew the contracts up between me and Columbia and the release between me and Jam Master Jay. They left me with $5,000, and I was out there for over a year before the record came out. So I was back selling crack. How else you gonna provide? How else would I provide for myself and then be on call and able to be in the studio whenever the company called me to actually be there?
How to Rob was officially released in August of 1999 and got everyone talking like 50 Cent wanted. It was a comedic route of taking jabs at big names in the music industry. Some of those big names noticed and responded. And boom, just like that, 50 Cent started becoming a name worth paying attention to in hip hop.
I got a new single out called How to Rob. It's off of the movie soundtrack In Too Deep.
Is that the one that How to Rob an Industry Cat?
Yeah.
That they blazing on the radio stations right now?
That's what's going on, you know.
So where did the lyrics come from?
The lyrics, I wrote the lyrics in like 45 minutes in the Hit Factory.
That's from your heart, that's how you feel?
Yeah, that's, you know, it's a little like comedy based on reality.
50 Cent didn't stop there. Unlike How to Rob, the next single he released was a more personal one. Something was brewing behind the scenes in Southside Queens, and he let the world know on his next single, Your Life's on the Line. 50 Cent had recorded 2 versions of Your Life's on the Line. The original version that was submitted to Columbia Records got denied because of how vicious and direct it was towards various artists. A cleaned up version with no direct shots was released instead.
Why you get jokes in your own hood? Why to rob you walk around like it's all good? Damn. Why you in the pring to get your shit back? Why you wanna approach me? Cause you know I put your shit back.
Despite the label version not being direct at anyone, everyone who was in Queens knew who the song was aimed at, thus sparking a public beef between 50 Cent and Ja Rule.
Let's do it. What's up, this Red Spider? I produce You Not Like Me. Get Rich or Die Tryin'. New York was crazy. I never seen that much guns in the sessions before. Like, I'm coming in from Cali, right? Working in New York, and everybody's on edge.
What's good, what's good? My name is Rockwilder, and I produced on the Get Rich or Die Tryin' album, Like My Style. Something happens where there's beef between Ja Rule and Irv and them and 50. And then, you know, of course, Murder Inc. comes out. But then 50 drops the joint. Life's on the line.
So I went to the video shoot. He had the whole crew. He was in downtown Brooklyn. And when I heard Your Life's on the Line, I was like, yo, this man is not playing. But that honestly sent a vibration where you could feel that somebody was going to be mad because he was going in on that, man.
This beef between Ja Rule and 50 Cent quickly escalated and got very personal.
I'll tell you personally, the Murder Inc., the people that you see, like Irv, Ja, the people that are involved in the business aspect, it's like these don't got no hood in them.
He's nobody. He's this person, right? This person we're talking about, he's no one. And what he does is he tries to eat off of other plates.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? By, you know, mentioning names and saying things.
Come here, give me a kiss, you little
and wanting them to chant back. So that's why, you know, when you say the name, I say who?
Sweetheart, for real.
I don't know him.
He's a fruit pop, for real.
You know, he sells like no record. He hasn't even came out yet.
Me being on both sides of the town with what I heard, what was happening, it was like when you heard that, you was like, oh, you was like, what's gonna happen from this?
50 Cent was generating some buzz for his singles, so Columbia Records had planned for the album to be released in summer of 2000. However, on May 24, 2000, things would forever change for 50 Cent.
I mean, it burns. Yeah? Burns. Sometimes it happens so fast, you know, you can't move. You know, time to think.
You scared for your life?
I'm scared the whole time.
Okay.
Ain't nobody gonna tell you they ain't scared. It's a hit, man. You supposed to die.
He got shot. And when he got shot, everything changed. Those records got shelved. And the whole vision of what was gonna happen got paused. You wanna be in the studio with them when they trying to come back? You wanna be in your office when someone comes shoot it up? No, nobody wanted parts of it. And I watched them drop him. And I think they literally did it while he was on the hospital bed. Like, yo, you're gone, you're done. We're not going forward. So that was f***ed up. That was f***ed up.
While in New York, I had to pay a visit to the place where it all started.
We are right now in Southside Jamaica, Queens, right in front of 50 Cent's house, where he got shot 9 times. Got out of this house, walked into the car, and that's where all that happened.
Right behind me is my grandmother's home. I came out like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, May 24th. She was bent over, actually planting flowers in the garden, and I walked over here to sit in the actual vehicle that my friend was waiting for me in, and the car pulled up. On the side of us, a guy got out the passenger seat of that car, came around behind it, and shot through the actual car.
Of course, that birthed the legendary hip-hop artist that he is now. The album that we're talking about in this documentary, Get Rich or Die Tryin', this is all where it happened. He grew up here, lived here with his grandparents, and made all the legendary music all around this area. All the connections he made with Sha Money, Tony Ayo, Lloyd Banks, all happened around here. And that's where the G-Unit story started. Everything else that you guys know and hear about, all birthed right here.
When you're in those situations, like under those circumstances, either your fear consumes you or you become insensitive.
After getting shot, 50 Cent spent 7 months in physical rehab. He had lost a lot of weight, but because of his physical therapy, he came back in the best shape of his life. The shooting gave him some paranoia. The way he was moving drastically changed, and who he trusted was very limited.
When I worked with 50, you had to know the secret handshake. Yeah. And so, in those G-Unit sessions, if you didn't know the secret handshake, you wasn't getting in. So like everybody right now that got the nice, relaxed 50 Cent and all that shit, that's cool, but it was a whole different tone, you know, back in 2000, you know, in February with that project. You know, everybody had to be in a bulletproof, armored car, you know, and if you left the squad, right, then that's on you. You see what I'm saying? It was wartime.
I remember being in the studio one time with him. This girl's like, "Where's my pocketbook? Where's my pocketbook?" So everybody started looking at Fifth and us. So Fifth knew that immediately he had to figure it out. So he started looking all over the place. And eventually he found the pocketbook in the bathroom behind the toilet stool. And his homie took everything out but put the pocketbook there. So he immediately got to his homie, started hitting him. Yo, he stripped this nigga in the studio in front of all of us. This nigga ran out the building, Hit Factory, damn near in boxes. After 50 hit him, this dude had to get on the train, leave and shit. And Fifth wanted to let everybody know it's not me, but I won't allow that. Even if it came from me, he wouldn't allow that.
When he came up to my studio session at Mirror Image, and him and Yayo came up in there, they took so many damn guns out their jacket. And I'm sitting there just looking at the table like, all right, man. He like, yo, Yayo, you got the 9 with just, yo, it's just, what, yo, hold on, I got the guns coming for guns. I'm sitting there like, I know the door locked. I know the door locked in that studio, but I'm like.
I had a Mac 10 on me, 32 shot clip. I'm walking around like that because I'm not comfortable with just being there. I had developed a paranoia. So the circumstances to that situation had changed me.
Despite the paranoia, that didn't stop 50 Cent. He was laying low and no one knew what was going on with him at that time. Then out of nowhere, he comes back and makes a powerful statement.
So at that time, he actually connected with Clark Kent first, did the F You record, and he said, I don't give a F who you are, F you. And he really meant shit. He don't give a F who you are.
A lot of people like, damn, he ain't learned. Some people saying that, yo, he ain't learned. Like, damn, he gonna come out with that?
Coming up, I was taught never back down. That's why I act the way I act now.
He just got shot, and he's still going. So you're like, yo, this motherfucker is crazy, yo.
But I was saying it on the mixtape circuit when I came back because I didn't know any other way. Like, how do you can't reconcile those type of situations. The only way you could do it is meet with the same aggression you meet it with in the environment I grew up in, or you bow out and then forget about music. You know, and that wasn't an option.
You're listening to the song, you hear it's 50, but 50 sound different. Nigga sounded like a villain that came back from hell like a Clint Eastwood flick. That's how it felt to me. It felt like that to me, like you tried to kill him, and now he's back with this thing that happened with the bullet. The bullet hits the tooth and creates this.
I've been shot 9 times, my nigga. That's why I walk funny. Hitting the Joe once, that's why I talk funny.
To hear somebody's voice change like that, and you hear them still not giving a and saying you, like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, kill me, like, kill me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, what do you do? Right?
He had the streets right back again. Like he never left.
Line for line, bars for bar, flow for flow. That record was it, and that was like, everybody's like, yo, more, we want some more. What's going on? And that's when he came to the crib, because he couldn't be in a position where people knew where he was. So one day, he was like, yo, I'm gonna come check your studio out. And he came with his crew, and he took the Long Island ride out, 30 minutes outside, 15 minutes outside of Queens, and he saw it. It was suburbs, nobody. And he was like, it's you? I said, yeah. Smoke, no parents upstairs, it's me. We could just work. However long you want to work, let's work. And from that day on, he came to my house Monday through Friday from the morning to the night, and he would work 5 days a week for about a year and a half.
With the street's ears tuned in on 50 Cent, he released his first mixtape, Guess Who's Back, in April of 2002, a compilation of tracks from Power of the Dollar to new freestyles to feed the streets. He was creating a buzz with no record label backing him, using the bootleggers as his own distribution team, something no artist had ever done.
How you doing? My name's Carlisle Young. I was one of the engineers on Get Rich or Die Trying. 50 and Sha, they had this thing, you know, maybe the moons and the stars aligned for them, and it was just all about like creating these projects, and they were just making songs constantly. I'm like, Jesus Christ, these guys are working fast, you know what I mean? And then the next time I came to his house, there was like a tour bus in front of his house. And it got to a point where he wasn't going into recording studios anymore. He was recording out of his house, right?
This is the lab right here, man. Welcome to Teamwork Studios, man.
Damn, this is beautiful.
This was the money maker. This is the one that turned me into a millionaire right here, man. I did Poor Little Rich on the bass on Wayster, all of these joints. This was the core of G-Unit, man, right there. I went to jail trying to get this, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I went and did a time. I did like a year in jail trying to make money to get it.
At the time, he didn't have a mic, so I lent him my mic. I had this really cheap $500 microphone that I had in my house. It was an Audio-Technica 4050. I didn't have a pop filter, so I lent it to him, and he just like kind of hung it from his ceiling, and he was recording with it for a while. There was no booth at the time.
Bang. Still got it. I'm a collector of everything, so we're gonna hold on to that.
Back then, right, like, you never saw artists like independently moving that fast. Like literally, it wasn't moving that fast. Usually like you had to go through the whole process of getting like a demo deal first, right? And then eventually you may or may not get like a real album deal. And then you may or may not get a second album deal, or you may or may not get a third album deal, right? But then 50 was just 50 and Sha, they were just doing everything at the same time. I was just like, wow.
The mixtapes is just like, everybody loved the fact that it's 50. Everybody loved the fact that he's angry. He was dropping those mixtapes at such a rate that the mixtapes was becoming he was actually pioneering that whole mixtape thing. You saw him on the mixtapes, the gun out. That damn guns that Yayo and Banks had. Them shits was touching the bottom of the CD. You saw how long the nozzles was? I ain't never seen a gun like that before. You see Yayo like this. You see Banks like this. Banks wasn't even opening his mouth. Banks looked like a straight hitman. And he in the middle like this. You like, oh my God. Have you ever seen that in hip hop? I've never seen that in hip hop.
And at the same time too, while I was working with them, I was also working with other big artists as well. One of the people that I was working with was Angie Martinez. And then she asked me, what are you guys working on? She was asking me about 50. She's like, yo, man, everybody around the radio station's talking about him. And then I started to tell her, I'm like, those guys are workers. That's all I would say. They're like, those guys are workers. Because whatever Sha is doing, I don't know how he's finding, because you know, even back then too, when you worked on the album, it was all these big name producers that you would hear, like the Trackmasters or, you know, like whoever, right? The Timbalands and the Swiss Beats and whatever. And then Sha would come in with a whole bunch of CDs with no names on it. And he's just playing beats. And you're like, who the hell made that beat? You're like, who the hell is that? Never heard about this guy before, right? So it was just like a whole different energy that those two guys brought to the industry.
I'm watching this thing like this. Yo, it went from every other week, Sha Money, these guys were bringing in mixtapes. And they're moving it. They went on a mixtape tour. You get me? Like the train was already going.
The music at that point, it had the confusion that I was going through in it. And that was interesting to the public, I believe. You know, and it just, there was no way for me to, you know, get around it. My thought process was just scrambled at that point. Like I couldn't directly figure out what I was doing at any point. It was like one thing to the next thing and then in pieces. And that's why we wrote material so rapidly, because I'd start something and start something else, then start this and then finish that. And continue to, like, I was all over the place.
After the release of the Guess Who's Back mixtape, the world was put on notice that 50 Cent was here to stay. He continued the momentum with the follow-up mixtape, 50 Cent is the Future. Another tape taking the hottest songs at that moment and flipping them into his own street version. The buzz became so big it caused a bidding war between record labels, something the music industry had never seen.
It was a bidding war because of the actual heat I was developing in the street. Like, I was writing material. I take someone's commercial material and then make it where it directly fit the mentality of the actual environment.
Despite the huge buzz, 50 Cent was getting blackballed by the music industry due to the crazy stories surrounding him, from getting shot to having beef with Ja Rule, who at the time was at the top of his game.
This was a time when I was telling 50 that, like, you know, even though I'm your go-to guy, we need somebody a little bit more in connection and a little bit more OG mode that could actually protect us and make sure we do the right thing. And I know there's one person that I always looked up to, and he's one of the illest managers in the game, Chris Lighty. That connection was the real connection that actually helped everything get shaped into form, because Chris knew every label. Wherever we went, Chris was the one that set it up, and we walked into the room as a team. I done seen people from excited execs to scared execs, to ones that already knew that they was gonna sign him because they got a call to shut him down, the blackball call, but they wanted to take the meeting to see what this was all about, see what this energy was looking like. So we done seen it all, and even some of them we walked out of like, yo, that was kind of weird, bro. You seen his leg? It was shaking like a motherfucker, like he's fucking scared.
You know, of course, when you have something independent that's making noise like that and knocking something down, and you got the industry doing what the industry's doing, but then you got the bootlegging mixtape, and then it's 50. So it's like everything just worked to the favor of what he was trying to do, man. It just was crazy. What was happening couldn't be stopped. It couldn't be stopped. That couldn't be stopped. It was just too much of a, you know how everybody said destiny and the universe gives it, at certain times things just happen. That 50 thing was coming from such a underground thing that nobody could stop that. I think if Irv had a chance, he would have probably could, but he couldn't stop that. Nobody could stop that. Jay couldn't stop it. Jay said, I'm about $1. What the f is 50 Cent? It seemed like you put more fuel on the fire of what he was doing. And then, like Jay said, what did Jay say? He came and told his crew, in a minute, 50's coming.
So many radio stations and magazines like turning him down, not playing his music, didn't want to write up about him. Initially, I was like, you know what? It's probably gonna need like a miracle for this thing to happen.
The miracle came, and it was from the biggest hip-hop artist at that time, Eminem. The Guess Who's Back mixtape landed in his hands, and he immediately wanted to meet 50 Cent.
My attorney, Theo, he had a relationship with Paul Rosenberg, who was Eminem's representation. And he sent them a CD, one of the CDs that I put out on the street.
Theo called the studio when we was in the basement, and he called me and he was like, yo, Emma's been listening to this mixtape nonstop.
When he got a chance, he listened to it and he was like, yo, call him. I need to speak to him. You know, and then they got me on the phone. He was like, yo, I need you to come out here.
Fifth looked at me, booked a ticket, told Theo, me, Theo, and Fifth flew to LA, and that was the game changer.
50 Cent had to make a smart decision on who he was going to sign to. On one hand, he had a huge buzz that got genuine interest from labels, and on the other, he had to worry about potentially signing the wrong deal and getting shelved for the rest of his career. With deals flying everywhere, even Chris Lighty wanted to sign him under Violator Records under a packaged deal.
30 days, man. Every label we went and met with. Chris was getting a deal together, the deal was coming through, Job was about to shoot a massive deal. And then we started learning that it was actually a package. We was a part of the package. It was gonna be 50 Mobb Deep in this, 50 Mobb Deep in Papoose. You know what I mean? And it was like, wait a second. We want this to be about him. Didn't sign a Violator. The deal ended with Violator. And then on the 35th day is when he was like, I'm out of this contract. I'm gonna sign with Shady Aftermath.
People were trying to sway 50 Cent in different directions. Steve Stout, who was an executive at Interscope Records, said not to sign to Eminem, instead maybe look at different deals.
Steve Stout is now an executive at Interscope. So while he shit on me, this is why I had to part from you, homie. He's the only one through the whole industry that know we're in LA, because he works for Interscope. right? So he's Jimmy's top guy. So the day before the meeting, he comes to our hotel. So I'm like, yo, Fifth, Steve Stout want to talk to you. Fifth knew Steve Stout through Trackmaster, so it was nothing new, nothing uncomfortable. He said, all right, cool. He says to me and Fifth, but he's talking to Fifth, don't sign to Shady Aftermath. You could sign to Rough Riders, or you could sign a Timberland label. He gave us other options, or you could just sign to Aftermath. But he was trying to talk us out of that deal.
Showed up, he's like, yo, asking questions, yo, look, don't do the deal with the white boy. Look, don't do the, look, your shit is serious. See, at the time, M was doing blue and yellow purple pills. So he's thinking it's a joke. It's jokey joke stuff. Yours is serious. So don't do it with him. Do it with Dre. Don't do the deal with the white boys. We're constantly saying, right? I'm like, how you even know I'm here?
And this is the moment where Fifth really looked at me, and this is where I had to make a decision. And this is where you go back to Drink Champs and you see him shitting on me. This is where he got mad. Fifth was like, yo, son, you working with me or you working with him? I respected Steve so much that I almost was applying that pressure with Fifth, and then I had to reverse it. I was like, yo, hold on a second, bro. You actually trying to look out for yourself and not even for us. So Fifth was like, yo, Sha, don't talk to him no more, bro. Like, fuck him, bro. So the next day we took that meeting, and we never called. I never texted him back, never called him back. I was like, bro, we signed a hit. He didn't like that shit. And we ended up doing Shady Aftermath, and he was mad because he was trying to, wherever he was trying to take us was going to be in a failed direction. And we didn't listen. F that. And I was loyal to Fifth, and I wouldn't listen to no one else. He's like, you work for me or you work for him? I said, I'm with you, bro. And my loyalty was to him, never ever listen to another head that was trying to steer us in the wrong direction. And he signed a Shady Aftermath that June 20th, 2002.
And just like that, on June 20th, 2002, it was announced to the world that 50 Cent inked a joint venture deal to sign to Eminem's Shady Records and Dr. Dre's Aftermath.
Flying to LA, just us three. We landed. We was at the Mondrian Hotel on Sunset. Fifth doing his workout and all that. And we were waiting for the next day to meet there with M, Dre, Paul, Jimmy, and Theo.
Then the following day, me, him, and Dre met. So M kind of took me to Dre.
Okay.
Like he called Dre when he came with the idea, like, yo, what you think about, you know, doing this? And then after we met and I spoke to him and Dre together, it was a wrap then, you know.
With the backing of two giants like Eminem and Dr. Dre, it was time to capitalize on the buzz 50 Cent had generated and immediately start working on his debut album.
After that deal, man, for one, he got a huge advance, $1 million advance. That was really big at that time. Now, it's like, yo, we're going to Dre studio. Or we're flying to Detroit. We're going to M. So now I'm like, yo, these are legends. We're working with the best of the best.
50 Cent and Sha Money had already made most of the album without Dr. Dre and Eminem. So when they presented the album, it wasn't as polished. Eminem and Dr. Dre worked on their half of the album from production to engineering to cinematic effects. It was all coming together.
I go to Dre studio and I see this whole team, engineers. Even though Dre mixed it himself, he had the recording engineer, he had a whole staff, he had a mic pre, a mic compressor. He gave me a big up, but he was like, yo, we're gonna come here and re-record this or add more layers. Fifth, I want you to do ad-libs like that. So the whole process became a whole educational because I learned so much about quality.
50 was incredible when we went in the studio together for the first time. I mean, you know, we decided that I was gonna do half of the first album and Eminem would do the other half. Mm-hmm. And my experience working with 50, it was only about 7 days in the studio. I spent 7, maybe no more than 9 days, I'm not sure, for my entire half, you know what I mean?
Damn.
I would put up a track, he would write it, spit it, and go, yo, put up another one, put up another one, put up another one. And that was it.
The recording process was done, and just like that, 50 Cent had his debut album. On November 2002, Chris Lighty, Jimmy Iovine, 50 Cent, Eminem, Dr. Dre, and more had a listening session for the album. This footage you are looking at is exclusive behind-the-scenes footage from that listening session. Then in December 2002, the full album was turned in, and the single selection process began.
So, single selection, we sitting in Jimmy's room in December, we running through all these records. I'm like, just sitting in the room, letting them watch their response to everything. And we run through all these records. And at the end of it, Jimmy was like, what the f***? Like, how y'all about to pick this? And then M, Dre, started dissecting. We were able to dissect it. And at the end of that meeting, we all just like, it was like a big celebration, man. And we all picked it. And Fifth was talking shit, proof we had a good dinner, sat at the table, sitting next to Dre, rest in peace, Chris Lighty. It was an awesome day, man, and we picked the whole album.
After the album was turned in, Dr. Dre and Eminem bought 50 Cent a $500,000 watch as a congratulations.
The whole 2001, we were in my crib recording. We were doing the freestyles and we were doing songs. The real songs that he was starting to put together, he would say, push that to the side, push that to the side. So we was recording nonstop. And at one point, you know, he just was like, all right, we're going to put these records out for mixtapes, and then this is going to be the album. We could go track for track, I could tell you, man, where it was recorded, man, and what was recorded before the album. That was all 50. Dropped that, and that was him just like trying to make sure that people knew that it's time for change. The change is coming. Change is now. Hit that quarter. Let's start.
The coins, the beginning of the album. I didn't create them. I put that together with the sound pack. I was using them on the mixtapes.
And then there was an intro that I did, and it was gonna be on the album. And then, you know, it was a little bit too dark for Dre and them, and then Fifth kind of was like, nah, all right, we're gonna hold that. So I still have that intro, and it was crazy because he did this is him being an actor before I knew he was gonna be an actor, because he was talking on it as an actor, like rehearsing some shit. I'm like, yo, you got like, you sound like this is a movie. And I still got this shit, man. And then he's like acting out the whole scene before, like him getting shot, and he was gonna be the skit. But they didn't like the music, it was a little too dark, and so that just kind of sat to the side. What Up Gangsta, shout out to Rob Reef, Tulo. When he did that, it was like, bro, everything, hook, everything was exactly what you heard. Backgrounds, yo, he did that one day, solid record. I'm like, yo, what the f is this? And we just pushed it to the side and just held it. It wasn't on no mixtape, it wasn't on nothing. First record I ever recorded on Pro Tools, so there was mad records to come after that. What else I got here? Let me see. This is the first record I ever recorded on Pro Tools right here. And I didn't know what I was doing, so I fucked up the session and lost all the files. So my man Carlisle Young had to come and re-record it for me and kind of organize it. But this is the first record I ever recorded on Pro Tools. Everything before this was on ADATs. Many Men, How the Time, we recorded on ADATs. And we had to transfer it to Pro Tools.
So Sha was one of the first people I knew with this Digi 001. And I went over to his house. He's like, yo, man, I don't really know how to use this thing really well. So I said, all right, no, I'm gonna come drive out and check it out. And then there was a thing in Pro Tools that you kind of had to like save the audio at the same time, because if you don't know which drive the audio is gonna end up on. Like, let's say you had multiple drives connected, the audio might just be all over the damn place. So sometimes if you take your hard drives and go to another computer in another studio and you load, all the audio won't come back up again.
Reef, the producer of What Up Gangsta, did an interview with Hip Hop DX in 2013 and said this about the track. I was able to be with 50 Cent in the studio at a certain point. It was cool to see him work because he was all business. Once a track was done, bang, 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 it was on to the next. What ended up being the final version isn't what was originally recorded. There were some glitches in the software, and maybe he didn't save something right. The original vocals didn't save properly, and at that time we were saying, oh shit, I can't believe we lost those vocals, what are we gonna do? I guess 50 tried to redo them a couple times, but simultaneously Wanksta took off. So 50 is doing 2 or 3 shows a night, and his voice kind of changed a little bit. So 50 went back a couple more times and tried to get it to sound as close as to the original as possible. But if you listen to most artists, they don't stay exactly the same over a period of time. But it's no big deal in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure Sha and 50 have that original 2-track version, and I have it somewhere in storage.
Patiently waiting, man. I was watching this Complex interview and they were talking about it, and I had to reminisce on that. Like, see, with Eminem, when he gave us a BCD, it was a skeleton. Literally a skeleton. Like, you would hear one sound and the drums. So half of the shit, if I was a rapper, I couldn't hear it. But Fifth, I'm like, how the fuck you hear this shit, bro. So he took that beat. We went back from Detroit, and he took that beat. We loaded it up, and he like kicking it. I'm like, honestly, at the beginning, I didn't like it because it was such a skeleton. I'm like, I don't hear it. But when we got the vocals to M, and M went and added everything with Lou, and that mix came back, and then put that verse in it, it was after a while because that record was sitting, and then he listened to the whole album. He's like, that's the one I'm gonna jump on. Because he had another M track too, but it was like, nah, this is the one. And M took that, magic. We came back, heard that verse, me and Fifth, Paul, it's on. It's on, bro. Every time they perform that song, I will go crazy because this is it. This is what you would imagine. Him and M on the record, patiently waiting, and the shit was saying, how it led up, and then what M was saying on the reverse side, game changer. Strings they added, everything, fire. Many Men. Let me tell you, out of all records on the album, this was the most premeditated, already written record that when I heard the melody and he was saying, I was like, this is deep, this is crazy. He had that hook and that concept. He was looking for the right beat.
What's up, y'all? This is Digger, and I produce Many Men on Get Rich or Die Tryin'. The Many Men beat, and it's probably, a lot of producers can probably tell the same type of story, but with that particular track, you know, it went through a lot of hands. That track was probably one of the first Dipset tracks, actually, you know what I mean, that never really was released. You know, so when we first started forming Dipset and the Diplomats or whatever, you know, I had a home studio and we were recording to that. So I have a version of that song with Cam, Jim, and Jewels on it, right? Fast forward, now the beat is in the hands of Nas, right? So Nas wants the track, you know, went to the studio with Nas. 50, he was a studio junkie, networking and different things of that nature. Somehow, some way, he was in a Nas session when Nas was actually recording that song. He heard it, he loved it. His A&R at the time, Lenny Nicholson, the A&R at Columbia at the time, gave 50 a copy of the instrumental of the track. You know what I mean? Because he loved it so much.
And when you get to the crib, Fifth had that beat. He brought that through. He'll be in my basement, like I said, doing push-ups with a Bible in his back pocket. I'm looking at the Bible like, this fucking guy got a Bible. Then he's chanting, Many Men, like this chant in my crib. I'm like, this chant is crazy, bro.
He got shot and he went to Pennsylvania and he was healing up. And he called my house, yo, let me speak to Digger. You know, my wife picked up the phone and said, hold on. It's like, it's 50, okay, it's 50. So I'm talking to him, we talked on the phone for about an hour, but long story short, he was calling me, basically telling me, yo, I still got that beat when I get on this album. Yo, you know, when I get my deal, yo, I'm gonna use this song, you know, whatever. So at this time, you know, he's shot 9 times, right? So he's calling my house and he's telling me about this beat that he's got that he's gonna use on the album. He's not even signed, right? So of course I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So he called, we talked about the industry, we talked about the beat, said the song was fire. You know, like any other artist, I'm listening to him like, yeah, you think everything is fire, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, hung up, didn't speak to him again for a few months. Those few months went by, and he healed up, and he took the fucking streets by storm with every single mixtape that you can imagine at that time, and he was hot like fire, you know what I mean? And then fast forward, he's getting this big deal with Eminem, Dr. Dre. I get another phone call.
And at that time, he was all Dipset, so we in competitive spirit. So I'm like, yo, does Cam have this beat? Like, what's going on? So I called Gino, like, yo, make sure nobody. And Fifth did the double call, and then Digger had to, but we locked and secured that.
John Money said, yo, we're gonna actually use that song on this new album, you know what I mean? I'm like, get out of here, this is crazy. Like, this is probably, I don't know, maybe a year or two after that. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy that how he said he was gonna use the song, he tore the streets up, and the rest is history.
That record was done before Get Rich or Die Tryin', before the deal, on ADAT. You know what I'm saying? So nowhere in sight of a deal, no Dre or M coaching him. That story was told from his heart. That melody, that whole was in him, he had that just ready for the album and pushed that to the side.
Once Eminem heard Mini Men, he wanted to add a special touch to the production, and that's when Digga got another call.
Yo, they call, like Eminem just wants to add some guitars on it. At the time I'm like, yeah, all right, and of course this is Eminem, so I'm like, okay, it's not gonna stop me, I'm just happy to be here at the same time. But he wanted to add the guitars, and it did add an element to the overall cohesiveness of the track and the album.
That was the anthem after that, man. It became a single. Like, it was the most hardest street single. We had to shoot the video. That shit really, really grew his audience. We in LA, staying off of La Cienega, SLS, and we would go to Burbank, to Encore. For some reason, initially 5th didn't cut the records with Dre there. So at this point, Dre sends me back with the CD. This CD is like, yo, you need security. Like, motherfucker got like a few beats on it, back downs on it, but this beat was a skeleton. Now these dudes is real skeleton musicians. Like, they give you some shit, you gotta figure it out. And 5th knew how to figure it out. That shit didn't have the dan, dan, none of that. It just had the one little doom, doom, right? And the drums. That's it. 5th going there. Oh, shorty. And he start the song, write the verses. And then Banks had this record where we already recorded it, and it was probably gonna go on a mixtape. And on the song, he had this line, was in the club, bottle full of bub, and he had that whole line. 5th always remembered that shit for some whatever reason, and he was like, nope, this is a hook. And he took that line from the song and made it that hook. Banks never got the publishing credit or the check, because that's a big one. So when we came back with that, yo, Dre was like, all right, jump in the booth. Yo, he made him record half the record over, put mad ad-libs behind it, raised the tone here, go, yo, do it on this mic, dope. And yo, we was just sitting there, Dre, Mike Elizondo pull out the guitar, Dre and his keyboard, making it bigger, I'm like, oh, shit, yo. So we just sitting there. Not only am I sitting there watching this shit happen, then I see Dre hit the board. This motherfucker, I'm sitting here thinking I'm just on some Mackie board. He on an SSL board knowing every switch, every button, and he's mixing it himself. Dre had speakers from the floor to the ceiling, the whole wall. My ears is like, yo, now 20 years later, I just left the ear doctor. I lost the fucking frequency, man. All right, Dre, I lost the frequency from them sessions, man. Seriously, man, that was so crazy and loud. There was a D12 version, and it was, I'm not going to say it was terrible, man. Respect to them, but bizarre. It just wasn't, you didn't think that record even mattered once you heard that, right? But then it was also a Rakim version. And Rakim was at that stage where it was like, yo, what's happening here, bro? Is this coming out? What's going on? Him and Dre had that, you never know if it's going to happen, because you could be signed to Dre and never come out, you know what I mean? So he was at that stage where he wasn't doing his part to make Dre feel enough, like, yo, we got to go. So, with Dre, you got to push your own wave at the same time to make him feel comfortable to know he gonna make it with you, and it's not just him making you. Just to think that record wasn't even possibly gonna be the first single. Now, looking back, thinking that we had thought If I Can't was, and we even attempted that, is crazy.
What would be your first single off your debut album?
Get Out the Club. No, In the Club.
In the Club.
Yeah.
And In the Club, was that a club record? I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't want to blow it, because the title is like, it could go a few different ways, but I made it.
Club. I mean, what's it about, bro? It's just us. We just chopping it up.
Ah, man. No, man.
Okay, I guess.
If I Can't Do It, it can't be done. Yeah.
That's another record.
Yeah. Me and Dre did both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like twiddling his fingers right now, like, which one should I go with first?
We sit in the room like, If I Can't or this. We knew it was Dre either way. And we was like, but If I Can't, it's too West Coast. Like, too West Coast. And it's like, nah, bro. And I think they did this test thing in December, and it worked. I think whether it was Flex or somebody, and that shit went crazy. And Flex went probably an hour long just playing 2 bars before you even heard the go. Like, yo, bro, play the fucking song. Yo, for an hour. New York was going crazy. Yo, that January, that record dropped, game changer. You could go back and see everyone, even the haters say, when they heard that record, they knew it was over.
I was in Miami when In the Club dropped. I'm observing the crowd. It just shifted. And I'm like, wait, hold the fuck up. Right? What the fuck just happened here? And Khaled pulled that record back it couldn't get to start. By the time it got to Go Shorty's birthday, I said, oh, I'm done. That's it. Right? I had fun, but there's levels to the game, man.
That's the birthday anthem for everyone to this day. Stevie Wonder and 50 Cent. Best birthday records ever. High All the Time, shout out to DJ Rad, recorded prior to the deal.
He had 2-track the joint, you know what I mean? And from there, he called, was like, yo, they gonna keep this one, but we gotta like elaborate more on it. But I wanna let you know what you think and all that. So he had Shy sent me a snippet of the joint. So I was like, all right, cool. I see where it's going. And then when I touched back to New York, we spoke on the phone, and he was like, yo, they definitely gonna use it. Like, I got the green light. Like, they definitely, you know what I mean? So, okay, get your lawyers to call my lawyers, bang, 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 and get everything right. And he was like, yo, this is what it's gonna be about. Told me it was gonna be like a weed song. So I was like, damn, but this dude don't smoke. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how?
It's funny, because I'm high all the time. Fifth don't even f***ing smoke. So when he's saying it, it's like, oh, you rapping for us, bro? But, oh, all right. So he made a song knowing that everybody smoke f***ing weed. You know what I mean? But he don't smoke weed, yo. So we just love this shit, because it's like, yo, we chanting the melody, like, because that's what we live in it. But he knew how to make songs that was for people, even though he ain't had nothing to do with it, man.
At that time, Styles P's record was out, I Get High. And he was like, yo, I wanted to do like a more greedier version of that. You know what I mean? Like some type of menace to society version of Getting High. So then we added more elements to it to make it dark. And then M and Shy brought like the instrumentation in the background to make it sound like more cinematic with the cars screeching and the, you know what I mean? Like sound effects to make it more movie, motion picture like.
Me and M did some fine tip trailing on that, tightened it up, finish. Shout out to Louis Resto as well, man.
Once it was done, went there, dropped the beat, came there with my drum machine, dropped it. Once we dropped it, boom. It was like, all right, we're gonna send it over there now to get it mixed. And then from there, I was like, all right, cool. So I'm thinking, all right, be on the album. It's gonna have the same type of buzz like Power the Dollar, you know? And it was like, yo, man. So we there chilling, burning. And Shy was like, yo, I'm gonna play you these 3 joints. You know what I mean? This is definitely on the album. So I'm like, all right, cool. So he played me Patiently Waiting. And then he played me Heat. And If I Can't. Once I heard them 3 joints, I was like, yo, how my joint gonna fit in between this shit? Like Dre beats. I'm like, yo, Dre beats, M on the track. I'm like, damn. I was kind of nervous too. I was like, damn, what if people don't feel my beat? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because these are heavyweights, you know what I mean? This is Dre. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, shit. And then once the deal was done, whatever, and I had to go sign off, so I went to his lawyer's office at the time, Theo Settlemeyer. And so they had the track sheet there, and I seen all the producers on there now. It's not that many producers at the same time, you know what I mean? It's like just a handful, but it's a nice body of work. I'm like, damn, my name is in there, you know what I mean? Like, that was just like, damn, the illest feeling when you like signing off and you see your name on the credits and you like, yo, this shit really about to be out here, like, everywhere.
$50 came in and 50 said, yo, I need to put I need a gunshot. I need a gunshot thing in there. I'm like, let me pull up this effect. He's like, no, just record my gun. And he pulled it out and just did this.
So this Heat record, for me, was the first time I heard a producer use something that wasn't a drum and made it a drum. He used gunshots to make kicks and snares out of it. And I was like, what the is this?
Dre used to have this club where people would dance, but he would play beats. He would just play beats. No DJ or nothing. Just stop the joint, play it. People start dancing, stop the joint, play it. He played that beat one night, all night. Bam, bam, cow, bam, bam, cow, bam, bam. Crowds dancing. Then when it stops, they're like, yo, play it again. He go, bam, bam, cow. Like, I heard that beat a lot of times.
There was a version with Rakim. Dre had a whole bunch of artists and they were making records and he's all about what was the best.
Dre had that for Rakim. And then I you know what's crazy? I asked 50, I said, yo, 50, did you hear that beat that Dre got with the shotgun? He said, yeah, I got that shit. That's my shit now. So I took that shit, Rod. I said, you got the beat with the shotgun? He said, yeah, that's bow. And what he said on it was, that shit was scary too, talking about that shit. Keep thinking I'm candy. Just fucking brains blow out and then it's like, bow, bow. Oh, come on, man.
But when we came back with that version and Fifth had it, let me tell you, man, Fifth went crazy on that record. And that killed it, man. Had the West Coast vibe to it too. It was dope. That was one of the records that we didn't do much at my crib. That was like a real LA trip where we stayed there for a few weeks and worked with Dre. And then you just felt different because that record gives you that LA feel. So that sunshine and that whole energy. And it was like, yo, this is big, Fifth. Like, damn, you making different records. And it was like, oh, shit, it's like an anthem, you know what I mean?
I heard the version of If I Can't with Dr. Dre on it. Go figure, yeah.
Dre? 50 on the same record? Like, can this happen? And didn't happen, but that record was crazy, man. There's a vinyl of a single, If I Can't, and they were going with that first. And immediately, Dre, I don't know what happened, but that call made in the club is the single. So Bloodhound. Whew, this story, we got to give Juvenile some love and respect because this wouldn't have happened without Juvenile.
I'm Sean Blaze. I produced Bloodhound on 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. UTP and Juvenile decided they were going to go hang out in New York for the weekend. This was like December 2001, right after the World Trade Center, were destroyed. You can actually still smell the buildings burning, smoldering, during that trip to New York. The very next day when they arrived in New York, he's like, hey man, I need you to get on a flight. Come to New York, whatever it costs, pay for it. I'll give you the money as soon as you get here, but just get here. And I was like, wow, what's up? He was like, we're gonna do some songs with 50 Cent. And I was like, 50 Cent, who is that? He's like, man, don't worry about it, dude. Just get here.
So when Juvenile come out, it's a whole bunch of motherfuckers from the South there, New Orleans. I'm thinking everybody from New Orleans. Lo and behold, Buck was one of them in the crowd. So as he came to the crib, we start cutting records with UTP, and that's where you hear it on the first 50 Cent is the Future. That was the beginning of what was to come with Bloodhound.
During the session with 50 Cent, we were able to record a bunch of songs, G-Unit, UTP, mixtape that came out. So like a lot of that production I did or was involved in. I recorded all those songs. It was all on the bus, when we did it. So we were going through a bunch of songs when 50 and, all the rest of G-Unit were there. And we came across the Bloodhound song.
We're on the back of the bus with them, playing music, cutting records, and Buck played that shit on the bus. So now, 50 look at me, I look at him.
50's writing to a beat, and I'm like, okay, just let me know when you're ready. So probably about 10 minutes or so after I was there, he was like, hey, I'm ready. I was like, okay, cool. So he goes in the booth, and immediately I turn back and go, who the is this? Because the sound, the tone, the hunger, the emotion, it just captivated you with what he had to rap about. It was a Young Buck record. Like he had full verses. I think he had 2 verses on the song and the hook already recorded. So when 50 heard it on the bus, it just created an opportunity to actually have a home for that record. Juvenile was cool with it. He's like, yeah, that's y'all song. Go ahead and do it.
Sean Blaze from Houston. Come with the session. They had the session. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, all right, let's fine tune some of this and that. And then we take the session, pull out some Buck verses. 50 come in, lay his, hook, over. That record was a little insert 50 right here. So shout out to Buck, because he really created the foundation behind that. Buck was an amazing songwriter. Can't never take the credit from him on that.
It was actually several changes from the original song during the initial pre-production and production for that record with Young Buck. There was probably several other people's voices for background chants, you know, that part. So we actually probably had everybody on the bus saying that part. And it was kind of funny when I heard the finished copy, because it was a little different. It wasn't as, like as we say, as south, you know, tone, where I think as you move up the people in New York, their voices are a little more high pitched. One of the funny things about Bloodhound is it was slated to be the next single, but the label felt like, hey, we've dumped so much into it already that we'll just let it ride and, you know, let the profits come in. And I was just like, ah, because they actually went back and did a radio version for it, and, you know, and all.
Back Down. That record is his traditional patterns of how to rob, your life's on the line, ghetto Quran, certain names is being mentioned, certain nerves is being pinched. That's his marketing tool. Fifth has a marketing tool within music. He knows how to make records that's gonna get you to talk, listen, and with them. This is one of the ones that I don't know anyone else that did a record to it. Like Dre had records that other people do, Rakim or D12. This one, nah. This one was fresh. And we went to my crib, cut that. Fifth had no filter. Got to LA and played it. Dre would put the filter on. I'm like, hold up, bro. Nah, bro, you going too far, man. So we had to re-record that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? I still got the version where he's spazzing, man.
The original version of Back Down that was recorded in Sha Money's basement was a lot more aggressive. Not only did 50 Cent go at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. as a whole, but he took aim at Supreme, Jay-Z, R. Kelly, Nas, Cameron, and more. 50 Cent even invites Dr. Dre towards the end of the track to jump in and say fuck you to the competition. However, Dre did not do that and decided to have 50 Cent re-record the song with a more filtered version, only going at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. I've heard this original version only 2 times, so I don't remember too many bars from the original, but he does take aim at Cameron by dissing his pink clothes and says, "You're acting all gangsta and tough, you must have forgot when the director yelled cut," which was referring to Cameron's acting days on Paid in Full.
That was Black Down. He was going black on that, blacking out, bro. Wilding on these motherfuckers. The shit was saying like, bro, you can't, what are you doing? Yo, come on, Nas is still a homie. Like, but he wanted to take everybody, man. It's like, you can't go after the God, bro. Everybody's getting it. Everybody's back the fuck down. And that shit was really, that shit was well received, man. That shit was hard as fuck. When I heard this beat, I'm like, yo, this shit is different. What is that sound? And he's using some tropical calypso sounds and shit. I'm like, yo, what is that?
Denon Porter spoke with OK Player back in 2013 on how he produced PIMP for 50 Cent. I first heard it when it came out because I was on the road. The funny part about it is at the time I was working with other producers because Dre said I can't do it on my own all the time. I didn't even know the record was happening right away. I think Dre played it over the phone because I was overseas. I heard it and was like, okay, I gotta do this and that, and he said, nah, it's done. Dre had mixed it already and the credits were done. He went in maybe a month before and I was like, when I get back, I'm gonna go in. And 50 was running through nobody knew. Back then, linear notes were so important, but a lot of that stuff got screwed up because it went so fast. There was another producer named Brendan Parrott that produced on the song too. When I first knew that the song was coming, the credits were already out and 2 million records had been pushed out. I was trying to reach back and help people too early and kind of got burned. So it was a bittersweet thing. It was a hard lesson to learn, but I was able to help somebody who didn't have a chance be a part of something great.
We cut that record where Tupac laid most of his album for Death Row. And that studio session, just that knowing that we was in a place where Tupac was at, I was like, yo, this is crazy. Because Fifth didn't have no song that sound like that sonically, nothing. And that record we knew was a hit after it was done. Snoop heard that, and then it became like, that's one of those records. As soon as you hear, I'm jumping. I need that. We went to Jamie Foxx's house, shot the video. First mention I ever seen where we chilling, just hanging out there. Crib was crazy, and this is where we got to really bond with Snoop. We like passing blunts and talking and laughing, and I'm like getting to really with him. We got Dre, now Snoop Dogg. That PIMP record really made us West Coast big too. You know what I'm saying? The sound was just sonically amazing, man. Shout out to PIMP. That was a dope one.
50 Cent said during an interview with MSNBC's Ari Melber that he was the first person to do a product placement for Apple in a music video. He said the PIMP music video was the first music video to feature Apple's iPod. You think you could sell an iPod? I could sell an iPod, 50 remembered telling Jobs after learning about the gadget. Jimmy will tell you, in that 10 minutes I sat there, I got Steve Jobs to give me $150,000. It was the first time Apple did product placement in anything, any music video.
I know you like my style. This is me and my A&R game, right? I'm from Queens. One of the hottest producers coming out of Queens at that time is Rockwilder.
This is the first time I ever told this story about Like My Style. I was avoiding the album. I wasn't saying I didn't want to be on it 50's album. I was in Queens, so I knew both sides, so the smoke was there. One day, Sha calls me, and Sha says, yo, Rock, what up? I said, yo, what up? He said, Fifth want to holler at you. And just passed the phone. I said, oh, shit. So Fifth said, I got to pay to hear music, and I'm over here dealing with. Meanwhile, my in the hood, and I can't get a track from him. I ain't going to tell 50, no. You know what I'm saying? That's my nigga. I ain't spoke to him, and, yo, Fifth, what up, nigga? Like, you know what I'm saying? You coming out? You coming out to joint? Yeah, I'm coming out. All right, come to the shower house. I'm there. Mind you, I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him since the whole. I go out to the house. I go there, shot in the basement. Yayo in the basement. Lloyd Banks in his hand. I thought he was like a killer type nigga. He wouldn't say shit. So he'd be like, yo, what up? Still there, still chill. Yo, Yayo was animated. Yayo was like, yo, Rock, what up? Boom, 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 shot and everything. I know all of them. And then 50 walked out, and I'm looking at 50 like, oh, shit, my nigga. Yo, you look ill. Like, he was built. You know what I'm saying? Came out. You know what I'm saying? Yo, what's up? Boom, boom, boom. Yo, you look different. Like, I've been looking at the CDs and shit, but I'm just like, yo, you look ill. You look ill. So I'm talking to them because, you know, me and we cool and shit. He said, them bullets hurt. He said, you know what? When you get shot like that, you don't give a fuck about nothing. Yeah, I'm going to talk about it. He said, and I'm going to get built, and I'm going to I swear to God, he said, this is stupid. He said, I'm going to get built and take all the LL's bitches. I just got signed to Eminem. I'm sitting there looking at this. You look crazy. Like, you don't look like the Coliseum 50. You look like a machine. Like, he looked like a machine. His voice, and I'm like, and then your voice, he said, yeah, the bullet knocked him. I said, yo, but that turned you into a villain. Niggas start laughing shit. But, you know, that's what happened that night, man. You played Like My Style joint. Yayo went crazy off it, and it made 50 like it. I think 50 liked it too, but Yayo was cheerleading it.
Yayo did his thing, killed it. It was like, bro, you on now, bro. And then shortly after, Yayo went to jail. But that was the last piece of the part that we really needed, because he went right before the album came out, man. That's crazy. Pat, that's the only one of two that Dre didn't mix or M didn't mix, and they let us mix.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Pat Viala, mix engineer. I mixed Like My Style, which was produced by Rockwilder, and also Gotta Make It to Heaven, produced by my boy Megahertz. Rock is the homie. Rock was one of those producers that he trusted me with his music, and he would be like, he'll just hand me over the multi-track and really just let me do me. And then, you know, everybody's home team, everybody from Queens. You know, that was one of those records you hear it from the first time, and it's a head nodder, you know what I mean? So that was a good one that I was looking forward to hearing what the people's response was gonna be to it.
We recorded that record after the deal. One of the last records recorded on the album, and from outside. So normally they're like, all right, it's a Dre beat or an M beat, but it's like, nah, here, listen to this. So we sit in the room, and that's one of the 48s that even Dre and M couldn't resist. It was like, yeah, that could make it. Poor Little Rich means so much to me, because I was poor. Then I got a little rich after this, man. As you see, I didn't produce a lot, and he was letting me bring other beats to him, and he would take that. This record was done before Get Rich was before the deal. This record was gonna be the single. It was gonna be the single right after Who Shot You came out. We was gonna put it out. Chris Lighty had us run to the studio, mix it in Chung King with my boy Carlisle Young. Mix was horrible. After we heard that shit, we hated the song. Hated it. Fifth was like, nah. Yo, shout out, yo, Carlisle, but that mix wasn't right, bro. And Fifth was mad at me, like, yo, Shot, what you doing? And this is where I learned that even what I recorded at the crib, when we took it out, I didn't have control because it wasn't at the crib and it was with other engineers. And Carlisle didn't know the frequency that we wanted, so he took it to another place, and Fifth was like, nah, that ain't it, bro. That ain't it. So that record got pushed to the side, right? Got brought back to life when I brought it to M in Detroit. M started adding more sounds to it. He made that shit, like certain things that I couldn't get out the mix. M was able to take my drums and everything and make it what it was sounding like, but bigger and better. Thanks to M, bro. That record, he sealed that shit, bro. Because that record was like, we didn't know how to make it sound exactly how it sounds now, and I couldn't find an engineer to do it. And M and Steve was the ones that took my track, took the song, Fifth laid that song way before everything, and made that a masterpiece so we could make it on the album. And that's like the one track I fully produced on the album. Poor Little Rich thing, man. 21 Questions, man. So this record was done after the deal. He signed in June. This record was done September 2002. Dino DeValier from Universal also managed Dirty Swift.
This is Dirty Swift from MIDI Mafia. I produced 21 Questions on Get Rich or Die Trying. Dino DeValier, he was really trying to sign 50 Cent. So I gave all my beats to Dino and then went about my business. And then I started seeing the 50 Cent thing, started to build some steam. And then I started hearing some of the mixtapes, and I heard a couple of my beats on the mixtapes, and I'm like, okay.
So with Dino involved, we got that track. And Fifth was one of those people, like I said, he thinks of songs before he record them. And he had that concept, 21 Questions. And I'm like, 21 Questions? And he was like, watch this. And he cut it.
They called me up. They're like, yo, hold this beat. It's going on the album. And it was 21 Questions. So they played it for me over the phone. So I was like, okay, I'll hold it. What are we doing with these mixtapes? They're like, don't worry about those. Hold this one. I'm like, all right, cool. So I was like, oh man, I'm on this album. I didn't think it was gonna be what it was, but I was like, it was a cool little opportunity. Like a new guy's about to get signed. I know he's got a little bidding war going on, so that's cool. And then I heard he did the Dre deal. And I was like, shit, Dre's gonna do the whole album. I'm off. That was my first thought. I was like, this song's not going on the album now. Dre's gonna produce the whole thing.
So then we go to LA and he played for Dre and them. Instantly, I don't even know how that shit happened. Before I open my eyes, Nate Dogg is in the booth. Girl, I'm like, holy shit. I'm watching Nate fucking do the hook. This nigga wrote the hook and he sang it exactly how Fifth said it. He didn't change the tone or nothing. He added that extra Nate Dogg part to it, but he captured it.
They put Nate Dogg on the hook. I was like, Nate Dogg is on a hook? Like, crazy. Like, back then that was every producer's dream. I need a Nate Dogg hook on my track. Like, that was huge. And then the sample clearance came up. And that came down to the last second. So I don't know if this is confirmed or not, but I heard there was a version of the album mastered, ready to go, without 21 Questions on it, because they weren't sure about that clearance.
Lo and behold, we're at the end of the album trying to clear every sample. This is a second. If you listen to this Barry White sample, they literally just took a second, and that second took over 50% of the publishing.
And I only sampled, if you ever listen to that song, It's Only Love Doing This Thing. The very beginning, there's a little riff, and then the song begins. So like, so I was like, I took the and then chopped it up. So I didn't think it would be a big deal to clear that.
Nate Dogg's manager, he's a legend, OG. He was also connected to Barry White. So he was literally, I'm like, yo, we have to clear this.
We were trying everything, like everybody from every angle was trying to get this thing cleared.
Barry White was on his deathbed. Rest in peace to him. This is the last record he ever cleared before he died.
Because of the circumstances, it was just, I guess it was hard. You know, he's on his deathbed, his team is like, you know, trying to deal with that, and there's this sample clearance trying to happen at the same time. So it kind of took us on the sample. You know, the sample clearance was very expensive. They took a whole chunk of the song, and you know, obviously it was worth it in the end, but it was pretty touch and go there, you know, while the clearance was happening, whether or not that song was going to make the album.
Dr. Dre wasn't a huge fan of 21 Questions. He felt it didn't need to make the album. In an interview with MTV in 2013, 50 Cent said this about Dre not wanting it on the album. They didn't care for 21 Questions. They didn't understand why I wanted it. They were like, I know what this is. This is NWA, it's just one member. Why do you want to do 21 Questions? I said, damn, I done did all these push-ups.
I don't think Dre was convinced about that song being on the album. And I get where he was coming from with that, but I think 50 knew he needed a little balance to all the gangster stuff. You know, I'll give it to 50. I know he really, you know, was the one that made sure that went on the album.
But Dre actually took it in, took the session, coached Nate Dogg through the hook, and after that, it grew on him.
The sample mixed with how, you know, the drums I chose and everything, it just sort of fell together. And there's not much to the beat when you listen to it. It's just, most of the best songs are real simple. When I first made that track too, I was like, man, this would be great with Kweli. I think Kweli would kill this track. But they called me first, so I was like, I never gave it to Kweli.
Don't Push Me. Did it. Recorded in the smallest room. M had 2 rooms. Now, I'm in Detroit thinking, you know, this is Eminem, the studios should be like Dre's, big and polished. His studio was cold. I used to be hungry a lot. It was a little ghetto, man, right? And this other room that he had, the smaller room, oh shit. It was like 12-12, it was like the hooded studio, but it had a good sound to it. So we cut that record in the other room, and Banks was on that. Banks went in there, and then Fifth and them, we came back, M walked in the room, holy shit. M heard that shit. M fell in love with Banks after that record. He was like, I fucks with him. M always heard it first and then got to become better if he chose to, you know, but Banks kept up with them. And that's where M got his respect for Banks off of that record. And they ended up doing records together and everything. But that Don't Push Me was one of those records where it was just M playing beats, and we recorded that in Detroit. I never recorded that, never went back to Queens with that. That was all in Detroit. Probably the only record we cut like that in Detroit. Wow, Gotta Make It to Heaven. Gotta Make It to Heaven. So now that record, shout out to Megahertz, I've been trying to find him. This producer at the time started to become like the most trending producer where people like, yo, who's Megahertz? He's doing all this Buster stuff. And every record that you heard, it was like, this sound is different. He created a sound where it wasn't samples, all original stuff he was playing, but it had this big solid foundation to the music. Like it wasn't thin.
Megahertz was his sound was very before it was ahead of his time. When I was pulling up the multi-track, most of the time when I mixed the record, I would start with the music and then incorporate the vocals later. So by the time I started introducing the vocals, it was weird that he was rapping on the other pattern that I thought should have been the verses. And that's the first thing that really grabbed me.
That was one of the hardest records to mix because, I don't know, man, Megahertz shit was just different, but Pat did it. He did that shit. I was in the studio like, yo, I don't know what the fuck you about to do with these drums was loud. I'm like, bro, Dre, none of them really was like, really champion for that record. That was one of the 48s that when we sat at Jimmy's house, with Chris Clancy and DJ and M and Paul and Chris and went through it, it meant something to 50 because what he was saying. So it made it off the album based on that. Because I think none of them else was like, oh, this is it. This is a mass. We're going to shoot a bit. Nobody saw it like that. But for Fifth, this what he was saying, got to make it heaven and all that. You see the spirituality and all of that. He still was in him. So everybody was like, all right, that's Fifth that he voted that in.
I miss you, Mega. Where you at, bro? Reach out, please. This boy has so many beats. It was ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. But if you don't know Megahertz, please look up Megahertz stuff, man.
You Not Like Me is a bonus cut, right? Your Life's on the Line is a bonus cut. Wankster's a bonus cut. All picked by Eminem. Wankster was doing so well, 8 Mile soundtrack, they still wanted it to get to his audience with the album. That was a marketing play. That was everybody else saying, put that on the album.
Now, with You Not Like Me, how that came about, he re-recorded it with us at the studio, Soho Music. So this was like my first time actually meeting 50 Cent for real. 50's real, it doesn't match like what you hear about him, and then when you meet him, it's just two different things, right? So Fifth comes in, and I always, like I refer to 50 as like the charismatic gangster, right? So he comes in there real witty, and he's like all smiles and, you know, dapping everybody up. And then he's like getting ready to do the overdubs for You Not Like Me, right? So he puts his bag down, and he got 2 hammers, right? Like Yosemite Sam, right? Tucked right back, just like the cartoon character. Goes in the booth and just starts, redoing the record. So that clip that you hear, click, click, that means run. He did that in the booth and everything. And he actually wanted the run Run DMC line. He wanted us to put that in there.
You Not Like Me was so hot on the mixtape. When we performed it, that was one of the big records he performed.
That was the one that the DJ started playing. I didn't realize it until I started going out. So I'm in Cali, and I'm like, oh, NYPD, LAPD. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I went out and seen the reaction. Like when I first heard it, I was just like, oh yeah, he on his grimy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's 50? But I didn't get it until I seen the reaction of the people.
But that was a mixtape record. But everybody was like, yo, look when he performs it, look at the response. You gotta fucking use that.
I was in Miami mixing You Not Like Me for a potential single. Then I get the call, pump the brakes, right? Oh, Eminem is getting involved, right? And Dr. Dre.
I was like, Responder, yo, come here, man. Let me do a deal with you, bro. And I paid him for the track and did some side deal with Red, and he got on the album. It was like an extra bonus track.
Eminem told me that was his, that was the one. Like, he was like, yo, Spider, he said, this record right here is made me a fan.
He did Your Life's on the Line. Now, when I heard that, I was like, yo, not only is he going in, this beat is hard. This beat was crazy. At the time, everybody was sampling. This is the first non-sample beat with the drums and the programming. Shout out to Terrence Dudley. I never heard a beat like that. I was like, yo, who did this? And he was like, this Terrence Dudley kid. It was like a nerdy, it wasn't no street dude at all. So when I was like, yo, this is crazy, yo. Your Life's on the Line, 50 and 1 on the album. M wanted it on the album. M loved that record. And that was just them coming in, Paul and everyone else saying, finish it off. Making it damn near a double album.
With the amount of music that 50 Cent submitted for Get Rich or Die Tryin', it could have easily been a double album.
I gave like 48 records to M and Dre, right? And they picked 16 records for the album, and then we went to work, so me and Dre did 12 records. Wow. And then me and M did 6 records. Wow. So it's cool, right? And then like 4 records are on the 8 Mile soundtrack.
Out of the 48 records with the extra records, some of them did end up on the 8 Mile soundtrack. Nothing else ended up on Begs for Mercy. If anything else, it ended up on a mixtape. But nothing that you can say out of those ended up on another album. He either took from it and made another record, or took from it and put it on a mixtape. that was pretty much how he balanced it out. And with Fifth, mixtapes were his dominate. Like, he was so dominant in that. So he would put records that belong on the album on a fucking mixtape.
There was one song with Lil' Kim titled Magic Stick that was supposed to be on the album. The original Magic Stick was intended to be a duet with Trina.
I did a record with Trina called The Magic Stick.
The Magic Stick?
Yeah, I got the Magic Stick.
She saying that or you saying that?
I'm explaining to her.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess that's I ain't got to ask you what that one is about.
Trina, however, took forever to send in the track, and by the time 50 Cent got it, he wasn't feeling the duet she recorded, so he sent it to Lil' Kim. Kim also took forever to send the track. By the time the track was ready, the deadline to turn the album in had already passed. 50 Cent did like what Kim did on the track. Since he liked it, he decided to let Lil' Kim use it for her album. He got paid $175,000 for that track, and the song ended up peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming Lil' Kim's highest charting single as a lead artist. There was another track that didn't end up making the album. 50 Cent revealed on Drink Champs back in 2016 that he recorded a track titled Angels with Dr. Dre during the Get Rich or Die Tryin' sessions, but it had never been released.
I was so seasoned when I went to work with Dre that I only worked with Dre for 4 days on Get Rich or Die Tryin'.
Wow. What? No, yeah. I've never heard that.
4 days, we did In the Club, PIP, Back Down, If I Can't, and this record called Angels.
Let's just make some noise for 50 flossing on us again.
Get Rich or Die Tryin' was scheduled to be released on February 11, 2003. However, because of the insane buzz surrounding 50 Cent, the album ended up getting released online early due to a leak. So the label had to push the album's original release up. Back then, albums typically were released on Tuesdays, but because of the early leak online, the album got pushed up to February 6th, which was a Thursday. Finally, after years of going through his own trials and tribulations, 50 Cent got his debut album released, and the world was loving it.
You know, when he first got the release date, and it was February 11th, I couldn't believe it, because that's my birthday. So I'm like, yo, this shit about to drop on my birthday? This is a blessing, like, what the f? But the demand was so crazy, and I don't know, the whole bootleg and the whole leak market, it was extreme at that moment in time. CD releases, somehow the factory gets released, and the next thing you know, it's out in the streets. So it got leaked, and they had to release it earlier. And it was going to be a monumental moment. The date was everything, the time, the period where we was at in life. It was all a blessing, man. And it was, you know, I mean, I was 26. I turned 26 like a few days after his album came out. So that was a game changer, man. And that was all a payback for everyone that said, you know what I mean, he wasn't gonna be shit, and I'm like, look what's happening.
It was like this brief moment of, man, this is dope. And then all of the voices started coming out, you know? And those voices are the voices of the people who were jealous, right? And trying to find every reason to discredit the project. My luck, I was around some of them people in the industry.
I was in New York at that time. I took a trip down from Canada to just, you know, see what was going on, and it was like all you heard in the street was this album in the club over and over and over, and all the other songs, you know. And then it was funny because for the year before that too, all you heard was this mixtape. So it was 50 Cent all the time for like 2 years probably.
That was a good day. That was definitely a good day. I went right to Tower Records on Broadway, downtown Manhattan, double parked, ran in there, grabbed my 2 copies. Yeah, I remember that day. That was a good one.
Because of the early release, the album didn't get a full week of sales. It only got 5 days. Despite that, when the album was released on February 6th, it ended up selling a record-breaking 872,000 copies, which was the highest first week sales for a debut hip-hop artist of all time, surpassing Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style back in 1993. The album then broke another record during its second full week of sales. During the second week, it sold an outstanding 822,000 copies. That was only a 5% drop in sales, which also had never been seen in the music industry before. Albums typically on their second week see an average drop of 50% in sales. Interscope Records also ended up undershipping the album, especially in New York, with some people not being able to get their hands on the CD at all.
Talk about this in 5 days. 872,000, 5 days, not even a whole week. You know what I'm saying? And it was some shit bootlegged and all in the streets that was out there where the cheaper people was buying that shit, you know what I mean? So Those numbers ain't even accounted for, and that's just. And if you talk about the undershipment, imagine what that number looked like. So he went platinum the first week. Let's just say that.
You didn't hear about that too often. I think it was like Eminem did that a few times, maybe like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, like those type of artists were doing the million a week, but 50 Cent? Crazy.
872,000 is definitely groundbreaking. Who would have ever thought that? You know what I'm saying? Like, but we knew from our independent source and what was going on in the streets, we knew that it was out of control. You couldn't stop it. I was on tour with Missy watching it, and each state do what it did.
That first week I went to go buy the album, I went to the store. Sorry man, we're sold out. I was like, and he's like, wait, we have some clean versions left. So I had to buy the clean version of the album, and I took that home. So it wasn't quite the same, but you know, it was all I had at the time.
The second week, we still doing the same number. He recouped the same month the album came out. He didn't owe them nothing. After that, he started making money. You know how many artists take over 15 years just to recoup on one album? You know how many albums I work with that I know still are unrecouped? Crazy, man.
50 Cent's In the Club broke the record for the most listened to song in radio history, and he still holds that record. The article said this: during 1 week in March 2003, the song reached 170.2 million radio listeners, according to the industry trade magazine Billboard. It's the most listened to song in chart history, said Silvio, who oversees Billboard's Hot 100 ranking of popular songs. 50 Cent's 21 Questions also broke a record, becoming the most added song on Top 40 Radio, with 1,200 spins on Impact, which then catapulted it to be the next single off the album.
One of my managers at the time was Renee McLean, and he was kind of running the whole radio scene. He had DJ Enough, he had all these DJs. So we were watching Airplay, and Dino too. Dino would call me up and be like, hey man, this is like the #2 record in Atlanta right now in this market at this time, you know? So like 21 Questions was just naturally making itself the second single. Like it wasn't the label's decision. I don't think the label wanted it to be the second single. 21 Questions just started, the DJs, the people, I guess it was getting the right response, and it naturally pushed itself to the top. People would come back from Atlanta, like some event and stuff, they'd be like, all I heard was 21 Questions, dude, that's gonna be a single. I'm like, I don't know. And then they announced it, but I kind of knew ahead of time because I saw the radio numbers, you couldn't deny it, you know? It was just becoming the people's choice or something. It was crazy.
With those record-breaking numbers, 50 Cent was named the top seller in music by Nielsen SoundScan in 2003, with 6.5 million copies sold of Get Rich or Die Tryin' in the United States and Canada at the end of the year. In worldwide sales, it had sold 11 million copies in 2003. He was nominated for 63 awards in 2004 and won 44 of them. And at this point, it was safe to say 50 Cent became a household name.
That just had the whole country on like a chokehold, man. And then it went ventured out. And then when I bumped into him in Sweden, I'm like, damn, he's selling out arenas in Sweden. You damn near gotta be Mike Jack to be in these arenas and all that. And he was there rocking it, main headliner. Big impact, man. Real big impact.
When I was in Brazil, I didn't really understand how big 50 was. I didn't really get it at the time. I mean, in New York, you know, like when Jay-Z comes out with an album or 50 comes out, the whole New York hears it because Hot 97 is playing it. Funk Master Flex is gonna drop 4 bombs on it, and then everybody in the industry talks about, oh my God, this thing is gonna be the biggest thing. They over-exaggerate everything, right? But then when I was in Brazil, I met a whole bunch of these little kids that dressed like 50, were talking like they were playing his albums. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? It was like a whole nother thing for me because, you know, the thing about it is like when you're in New York City at that time, you saw New Yorkers reacting to this, right? I'm in Brazil with a whole bunch of people that don't even speak English. And I'm like, looking at these little kids walking by with their little Android phones or whatever phone that they had, playing 50 Cent's album, and they're all going crazy and they're all dressing like him, wearing like, but they didn't have on the real chains, but they had on all these fake chains, these jeans and whatever, right? And their hat turned backwards. I'm like, what the fuck, man? This is like a whole nother thing.
I'm 26 years old. Album comes out in February. First royalty check, end of September, early October. I get that in the mail. So I'm at my mom's crib, and I go to the mailbox. I see my name on it. I open the joint up, and boom, I open that joint. Shit, 700,000, yo. Not within an hour, 50 calls me. That nigga heard that shit. He's like, what? I say, how much you got, nigga? This nigga's like $6.6 million, some shit crazy. Like, I'm like, what, bro? What the? Shout out to Fifth. I believed and we achieved.
As of today, Get Rich or Die Tryin is RIAA certified 9 times platinum in the United States and has worldwide sales of an estimated 16 million copies. The album's singles recently got the RIAA certifications updated in 2023, with the album's lead single In the Club being certified 9 times platinum, 21 Questions being certified 4 times platinum, Mini Men and PIMP being certified 3 times platinum, Wangsta and Patiently Waiting being certified platinum, and What Up Gangsta and If I Can't being certified gold. This is an incredible feat considering back then singles weren't selling like albums. Unfortunately, after the huge success of Get Rich or Die Tryin and the success of G-Unit as a record label, eventually 50 Cent and Sha Money XL would part ways.
After the album dropped, you know, we were immediately on tour. In that year alone, 2003, I only got to be back home for 20 days the whole year. Next year was almost the same thing. And then from there, let's do this G-Unit label. So Fifth's like, yo, you're gonna be the president. We came to a point where, you know, for Fifth, you know, he's a different kind of dude. So he started counting money. I brought a Ferrari one time. He was like, yo, Sha, what you doing driving a Ferrari? Yo, son, I'm just making some money, bro. He's like, yo, bro, I ain't even got a Ferrari yet. So he mad at me because I'm on my shit. So that's when I learned you can't outshine the master. All the albums that came out in the G-Unit came out while I was there. The last album I dropped was Buck the World. And right after that, 50 didn't even call me. My business manager called me and said, Fifth don't want you to be the president of Label No. That's where it changed. You know, I still got love for him, but that's just what we went through at that time. So it's not beef, it's just the bad of the way business, sometimes it don't work out. That's how I take it now. You know what I mean?
Despite the falling out, Sha and everyone else involved in the making of Get Rich have gone on to have illustrious careers.
So hold on. How many of these records is mine, Sha? How many columns of these would you say came out of my collection?
A lot of your records.
What?
I took
just
a handful.
How many times in the 90s, before 99,
Uh-huh.
how many times you say you've been to my mama crib? Because you left with a crate every time.
A crate? Not a crate, bro. That's
the little crate, bro. You left with a crate of samples every time.
Records back that you got from my crib back in the day.
You a collector. That's a thief. That's not a collector.
I'm a collector, yo. I'm a collector, bro. You said I could have it.
No. There was no. I guarantee you, I never said that. I'm a real opinionated person, so when you give me your multi-track, your instrumental, your vocals and all that, I get to invoke my opinion on your music. My DNA will be on that one way or another, and hopefully you like it, but it's gonna be our song, you know. I stayed pretty busy. You know, I've gone on to do, like I said, a bunch of stuff with Rockefeller, Hove, Neptunes, LL Cool J, Swiss Beats, Mariah Carey, Alicia Keys. Last count, it was somewhere around 180 million records sold worldwide, 66 #1 albums, and credited engineer on 5 Grammy Award-winning titles. So I've been blessed, bro. Blessed, definitely, and still going. Now I'm a professor of music production and engineering over at Berkeley College of Music. The music business will whoop your ass, right? And coming to, you know, the academia and being in college around a bunch of 20-somethings, it's really, I didn't know how much I was gonna like being appreciated. That was very unexpected. So it's like when you know, when you're in the music business, it's just like, you know, it's very competitive. Get it done or else, you know what I mean? Fighting for your money, fighting for your spot, fighting for some shine. Being a professor, it's the total opposite. I'm here for it, yeah.
From the success of Get Rich or Die Tryin, now, yo, even if it's just a snare and a hi-hat, Spider, just send us something, right? And we're gonna make a record out of it. Yeah, because you attached to these two giants. You got Eminem, Dre, and 50, and then, you know, that XL cover. Now, it was up. Like, the work definitely came through that. I got my own project coming out called HIPS. It stands for Hiding in Plain Sight. it's my project to be like, I've always been there. I'm in all these places. I'm just not looking for the attention and everything. But it's gonna be a dope ass project. And I have a few guests already, cutting records, and we're gonna start to put that out. So look out for that.
I continued to work in music, obviously, for a couple more years. And I knew at some point that even my job at that time as an engineer those days are numbered. You're gonna be able to produce albums even cheaper than what Sean 50 Cents did, right? You're gonna have a whole bunch of guys now just gonna be producing records for nothing. Can I actually sustain myself? Living that lifestyle still and competing with all these guys, because at this point, these kids are gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure out the same formula I figured out. And they're just gonna be doing it a lot cheaper than me, a lot easier than me. And then 2008 was when I said, you know what, f this shit, I'm out. I'm working in private equity now. I help manage a real estate development fund, and I also do my entrepreneurial stuff. I also own a few businesses. The one that I have my hands on that I'm actually managing every day is a medical clinic. And that one I'm planning to expand right now. And I'm actually planning to expand that to 99 clinics, hopefully in the next 5 to 7 years.
It's a marker in time. Like it's like a dent in the fabric of the music business was that album. And like, if you're involved with it somehow, there's a halo effect to the rest of your career, there's no doubt. It fueled everything else we were doing. So all of a sudden we had a label deal with Elektra. Sylvia Roan and Merlin were running Elektra at the time. We sat down with them and it was kind of like, what are we doing? Let's do a song deal, label deal, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool, done. We were like, oh, we just got a label. Okay, we got to find some artists now. So we went and found, we were trying to find artists to pitch and stuff and still trying to produce. That led to some of the other big records we did. We were doing a lot of stuff with Noriega and CNN. Fantasia's When I See You, we did that a few years after. Jennifer Lopez, later on Justin Bieber, we were like the first producers to work with him. Frank Ocean, the list goes on and on, I don't know. I mean, we're still doing our thing. Like, I'm still sitting in front of 2 speakers every day in the studio.
A lot of people reached out, and from there, I took the overseas route. Went to Japan, worked with some guys out there, DJ Daito. Went to Sweden, dropped some singles out there with my boy Bleeds. Did some songs in Switzerland also. So it's a different market out there, so I took that route. And I collected a lot of joints, man, and I want to like bring sounds to like up and coming producers that they could use that are really from authentic drum machines from that era. So I have like a whole collection, a whole bunch of like drum kits, not loops, drum kits from original machines such as the SP1200, the MPC 60, the MPC 3000, even the ASR 10 to the ASR X. You can hit me up on the IG at DJ Rad.
The album just, damn, you made the 50 album? You know what I'm saying? That was the thing about that. And the 872,000 sales with no samples. I ain't sample. I played that. You know what I'm saying? It looked good from the royalty standpoint thing. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that you just made it on a classic album. One of the things I've been blessed to do has always been on classic albums. I was on Capital Punishment, all the, the first beginning Jay's joints, 1 or 2 albums of Jay, Redman's career, Red and Meth. I'm chill, it's all family right now. No real projects I'm working on. I'm affiliated with Meth, I'm affiliated with Red. We do whatever's required. Affiliated with Buster still. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people know the Czar joint. And a lot of people also know the Do You Think About Me by 50 Cent. I did that joint too. So, like I'm in chill mode right now. I'm in the 3rd quarter of it. I'm just chilling. About good investments in family right now.
When Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped, my phone was ringing off the hook. I had managers, publishing companies, record labels calling, looking for, what else I had. That album release actually landed me on the Chameleonaires record. Additionally, I've moved into the film industry where I'm an editor. I did the Fifth Ward TV series. I did One Crazy Christmas, and I'm also involved as the editor on Hip Hop Family Christmas, which is turned into be a monster. We've actually done 2 of those movies already, and we're slated to do another one this year.
Because the album sold so many copies and it sold so many copies so fast, in the liner notes of the album, You look at it, it says it's produced by Daryl Digger Branch for Six Figure Entertainment /sixfigure.com. When I put my website address on the liner notes in the album, I started getting contacted from people all around the world like this. They all wanted to learn from a hip hop producer how to make a beat just like this because of that. I actually started a website called onlinebeattutor.com, and I started doing like little 5-minute tutorials on teaching, producers how to make beats. And this was before YouTube, right? So I had literally like 10,000 members, and that was a lot at the time. The light bulb went in my head and said, wait a minute, I can actually make a business out of this, and it actually worked out pretty well. Well, right now I'm just, like I said, I'm working on my own album finally now, where got a lot of people featured on it. Got Raekwon, Jim Jones, a whole list of people on it right now. So doing that and still making music. Music is my passion, my love, and never gonna stop.
There's this one phrase Fifth told me that always stuck with me, man, and it was like, I bet on you and you bet on a crackhead. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I had to keep the circle small because he was real particular of everyone I brought around. But after I started slowing down and not being the president no more, I started wanting to create and do things for other people. Therefore comes the Busta Rhymes Stevie Wonder record. I get Crit, I get 2 Chainz, and then I'm working with Mac Miller. Then I just wanted to keep going, so I just kept going. Like, I love signing artists. I love finding talent. I love letting the world know I know something's hotter before you. And by the time you know, it's gonna be 2 years later, probably 3, and then you're gonna be like, oh shit, you was right. But I gotta keep doing this because y'all don't know. For me, it's all about like, yo, let's sit in here and turn nothing into something. And then we could turn into millionaires. I'm all about that.
I think that the measure of a truly great album isn't just the impact it has on the culture or the careers of the people involved in the making of it, but also the impact that it has on the fans. Being a fan of 50 Cent means something different to me. 50 Cent's story on how he prevailed through all the trauma in his life as a kid was inspiring. I too dealt with a lot growing up. I was born in Kosovo in 1995, and by 1999 it became a war-torn country due to the conflicts with Serbia. The war in Kosovo in 1999 was basically a genocide. The stories that my parents told me were just something that it's like out of a movie. People's heads getting chopped off, burned bodies, corpses all over. It was a cleansing. That's why I'm always thankful for life. It's something that I feel like I cheated death quite a few times. And the ironic thing in all this is that when Kosovo got their independence, 50 Cent performed there in 2007. That performance, the fact that 50 recognized Kosovo as its own country before it officially became an independent country, was mind-blowing. And that night that he performed, this is during his Curtis promo run, Serbians came there. And Serbians and Albanians, they had their own war. But that night, everybody was peaceful. Nobody caused any problems. And that was because of 50. It's just wild, that connection. 50, I don't think 50 even realizes that he literally caused a peaceful treaty between two places that hate each other's guts. That night, nobody had any problems between Albanians and Serbians.
I'm from Jamaica, Queens, Southside Jamaica, Queens, New York. So for me to be out here and have 25,000 tickets selling 8 hours is amazing to me. Like, I'm more excited probably than the average fan right now.
His presence in Pristina delighted young Kosovo Albanians looking to the future. There were nearly as many fans outside the stadium as inside.
It's because of Get Rich or Die Tryin'. If it wasn't for that album, I don't know where I'd be right now. 50 Cent died that day in May, I believe 24th of 2000. I don't think I would be where I'm at right now. And that sparked my passion for hip hop forever. And that sign you see behind me, diverse mentality, all started because of that one album and 50 Cent himself. Everything he's done in his career, I've blueprinted everything off of him. Everything business-wise. I know he didn't smoke, didn't drink. At the time, I was like, I'm not doing any of that shit because 50 doesn't do it. People look at gangster rap and say it's something very violent, aggressive, disrespectful, this and that. But With 50, you would hear that in the music, but when you would watch his interviews, it would be something totally different. He'd be very articulate, chose his words wisely, and it was always about business, 24/7. Like while everybody else is partying, he would look over contracts, make sure everything is right. And it shows, you know, and to this day, everybody that I talked to in this documentary was always talking about 50 would show up on time, do his work, get done, and leave. It would never be no bullshit, no time wasting, none of that. That's what I admired. That's what I molded myself after. That's why I started everything that I'm doing with Diverse Mentality, with my former website, Diverse Hip Hop, everything from 7 till now at 27 years old, 20 years later. Shout out to 50. Thank you, 50, like Yayo says. Thanks, 50. Because of that, it's deeper than music to me. That's why I put so much into this documentary. From New York to Atlanta, I traveled all over America to give flowers to some of those who contributed to this album.
I think a lot of people forget how long it takes to deliver such a classic album, how many people it takes to deliver such a classic album. It takes an all-star team to deliver great things in the world. Everybody did their thing. Everybody introduced something new and unique. It was perfect timing.
Hip hop is fun in that, you know, yeah, there's the violence and all that shit too, but hip hop is a real fun thing when people are in there creating.
Of all the people involved, I appreciate every single one of them. The fact that they entrusted me in delivering this vision of the 20th anniversary of Get Rich or Die Tryin', to me means the world. I want to say thank you to the fans, whether YouTube, Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Like, comment, share. Everything that you've all done have led up to this moment, to do something I've always dreamed to do with Get Rich or Die Tryin'. And I hope you all enjoy this because we all put our blood, sweat, and tears into this day in and day out. And I just wanted to deliver something that gives flowers to the people that forever changed my life. And I can only do that because of all of you that are watching and supporting. I hope in the future we can do more things like this, where we can do different type of documentaries. It all depends on the reception of this one. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
We can't take a legendary story and fumble it and make it only where you're the legend. You had people that contributed to it. This is a classic. And we bigging up everybody that was a part of this. Everybody that was in on this team that made this shit big, you know what I'm saying? And we here. I want people to know that, and I want Fifth to know that. And now, let's just move on, bro. We good. I'm good, you good. I ain't broke, you ain't broke, we good. I wasn't here to take. We did that together. We made it, you know what I'm saying? Legendary 20 years later, telling the story.
Go back, rewind the tape. Mention 50 Cent's name to anybody in that time, and you're gonna see one thing: anger. Everybody's fucking upset. Oh, fuck him! This fucking guy! This and that. And then now look at the irony. They're all kissing his ass now, and he still got that fucking greasy smile on his face, right? You get me? He's mastered that shit. Like 50 is the charismatic gangster.
Those lyrics was from his heart. He was in that pain. That shit was in him. And he was giving it in real life, pouring it on a record. And that's what music really is. That's why everyone could feel it.
We just got caught up in the whirlwind, man. 50 Cent supercharged our careers.
It takes a certain type of skill set, and it takes a certain type of mindset to actually take something from an idea and just get it off the floor. But then it takes a whole nother mindset to make it global. Not just 50, but the entire team of them were exactly that. Like all of them had that thing about them.
It was just out of this world. I would have never fathomed that type of level. I just was amazed at how it was happening at all times.
50 Cent is to me a great example of someone who understood the business aspect of it. Before he had his deal with Eminem, he had the management team, he had a marketing department, and they had the recording studio.
I'm fortunate and humble enough to be a part of it, and I really appreciate it.
Get Rich or Die Tryin'. They try to kill you. And you rich right now. That's hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Telling you the story.
Shout out to 50 Cent. Thank you. We made some classics.
How many years ago was it that you got shot?
I got shot in 2000.
2000. So in a matter of basically 3 years, you've gone from literally fighting for your life on a gurney in a hospital with full of bullet holes to being the hottest rapper in the business right now.
I'm excited. I feel blessed. I feel like I'm here for a reason. You know, I think it's to do something positive, you know, but I think anything that changes too fast is no good. So you shouldn't expect me to come in next week or walk around with a Bible or feel like I want to teach someone something very positive when that hasn't been my experiences. I think the things you go through make me who I am.
Today, 50 Cent is one of the most globally recognized artists in the world. With over 60 million records sold in total, his status has forever been cemented in hip-hop. His story and evolution is something this world has never seen. From a street kid in Jamaica, Queens, to one of the biggest businessmen in the world. The way he's managed to maintain relevance for 20 plus years is nothing short of remarkable. After dominating music, he's now involved in TV production and is dominating that field by a landslide. That doesn't mean he's stopped his love for music, because in May of 2023, 50 Cent announced his Final Lap tour, in which he's touring all around the world in celebration of the 20-year anniversary for Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Tickets are available on 50cent.com.